Willkommen sus.
Hopefully, I should be hearable now, I would think. That would be nice. Okay, cool. Let me just double check and make sure. Okay, so this needs to go. This needs to get rearranged here, I think. I don't think I need that. I think I do need this. Let's do that guy for now. Okay, cool. There we go. Okay. We got a couple folks. Let's see. Is there any other notifications that I can send out? I remember last week worked really good. I somehow sent out a push notification, and I have no idea how I did that. It was very successful, though. I wish I could do it again. Don't worry, Kev. Unhinged is fine. What's up, Octavia? How you doing? Fricking yes, we have some excitement for this week. So yeah, let me grab I have my notes here. Okay, so yes, very boring, uneventful week. Not much happened. Nothing at all. Nope. Except OpenAI happened to have their dev day, so I figured that's topical enough. I saw some other people that are working on Agent Builder, and then I caught up on some of their videos, which I thought had a little bit of like gas in them, in terms of like how do we structure like agent workflows in a way where they're actually useful, where they actually do stuff. And I thought they had some decent ideas in that, so I had a notebook, just like yank a couple of things out. We also this week are going to have Mr. Rome, our esteemed friend from tipmd, and I need to fix the tweet because what's up, Tara? Perfect timing. The @ that I thought was his was not his. So we should edit that at some point. I think we have like we usually have an hour or something like that. I think he sent me his @ Let me just DM it to you or whatever. Real quick. Let's see. Where's he at? There we go. There we go. Okay. And then if I think I'm just gonna DM this to you on Discord real quick. It's not super urgent that we update it, since you know in my posts and the other posts, I just use tipmd instead of his actual @ but that's his actual @ Anyways, Rome works on a thing called tip.md, which we will go over a little bit. It is more or less a payments platform, but it's just like you embed the thing and now you have a payments platform. You are a payments platform, which is kind of cool. Which is also somewhat topical as relates to Dev Day, i.e., OpenAI seems to have this. You were you okay? Cool. Um, they seem to have decided that they're okay with letting Dario have his MCP, but they're going to try and take ACP. Because we definitely need another protocol instead of just embedding an HTML into some markdown and just like making it happen automatically. Very necessary. Yes, more protocols. Definitely not confusing. What up, Al? How's it going?
Howdy.
Hey. We've got the So currently my game plan is Rome has like a couple of things he's working on like all sorts of stuff at any given time, and so we have some like interesting. I was like, I'm interested in what you shipped, yes, but I'm more interested in how you shipped it. So hopefully he'll come by with some extra tech for us to go through, and the let's see. I wanted to. So the big kind of splashy thing from OpenAI on Dev Day was this agent builder. Thankfully, we already did that in open source a long time ago, several times in fact. So the what up, Rome? How's it going? I actually my flows for that might be done by now too, which would be pretty cool. Al, you got any updates that you want to toss out tribe related, or anything generally related? Feel free.
Yeah, sure. We are getting really, really good feedback at SF Tech Week this week. The biggest thing so far is that most of the people that we have talked to are extremely excited to record all their telemetry and use that for all kinds of agent feedback, which we now have that shipped and I believe is live, so people are welcome to try out the CLI. Happy to give a demo later on.
Should I? Are we still stealthing the launch page, or am I okay to show this off? I like it. I think we did good.
Yeah. Show it off.
Sweet. We did a couple of revisions on it, and I think the messaging here is improved, clear, and I'm also glad that people are kind of seem to be seeing the appeal of logs and telemetry. I know, because my worry is like, oh, that's boring, or like, oh, that's just an evals platform, but it's like, until you see what you can get out of there, you probably should also know what's in there. Like, it's if you, from the outside looking in, it's like, okay, telemetry is good because I don't want things to break, but if you try to deploy an agent, like, you live or die by the quality of your telemetry, and it's always seemed silly to me to like be using a code gen agent and not collecting any telemetry for it and just letting somebody else have that. So yeah, I'm glad people seem to be getting it.
Yeah, point of discussion for later would be if you are recording all of your phone calls and you are not recording your agent telemetry, why is it that you feel that phone calls are more important? But if anybody has feedback or wants to argue with me about that, I'm here for it.
Yeah, there's I grabbed one of the workflows out of this YouTube video in which they kind of go over some of the thing that caught my ear from them was like, they tried to use Agent Builder and wire it into their existing like corpuses of data like Slack and Google Docs and stuff, and then set up stakeholders to be able to like interface with this sort of like workflow. So you have a stakeholder informed like positive feedback loop, which I thought was really interesting. So like building corpuses of data just in general is a good thing to be doing right now, and then it's always super interesting to see how people are using it. And then we have the man himself. What's up, Rome? How are we doing?
Hey, good. Just Discord stuck in a loop trying to update. So I was hoping to be able to share my screen. I'll fix it, but I'm joining from my phone to start.
Yeah, no worries. I was just I gave a little preamble on includement on tipmd, but yeah, anything you got to bring is always super welcome. And then yeah, definitely interested in what some of like your approaches have been to try and get sufficiently accelerated in the current metagame, as you will. Paco and Kev, you don't record your phone calls. You probably should, man. Well, I think it's more important.
Yeah, I like this analogy actually.
Yeah.
And also, I'll if I manage to share my screen, I'll show something. But I've been very I've been Langfuse pilled, to be honest, and I've been using it quite a lot. And it's quite good. I like it. Like it's nice because you can kind of, and I agree with the thing. If you ever want to ship anything in production, not having Langfuse or some sort of the way to record what your agent is doing is, well, if you want to call agent, just what your LLM calls look like, especially if you let other users do it, then yeah, one, you're gonna be fucked on cost and you don't know why. And two is also interesting to know like what people are actually doing with your product.
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, and it's kind of interesting on both sides for me, at least for because it's like the or like at least for me as somebody who is like kind of in the AI bubble, if you will. It's like it's very clear, like, hey, if you are deploying an agent, you need to be doing evals, or your agent is just going to permanently suck forever, and then anything you forget to eval it on, it is going to permanently suck forever at that. So you should eval a lot all the time, everything. But not every platform makes that particularly easy, and then it's also like it like feels like a sort of different. It's like I would do that to my product, but I don't normally do that to my tool chain, right? Oh yeah, there you go. Baco and Kev don't record your phone call. I guess I wonder if that's like actually a standard thing in like most businesses now. I know it is for us, but you and me are super AI native, so maybe that hasn't caught on yet. But yeah,
the SF Tech are recording their phone calls
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, you know, every probably.
I mean, we don't. Yeah. Yeah, in my business, we do like I work in a bank, as you know, and most people here don't. But yeah, I work in finance, and yeah, most all calls are recorded. Like, but they're not recorded for AI purposes. They're recorded for compliance purposes. But nevertheless, you still have all this data that is being collected by companies. So I wouldn't be surprised. And just so you know, the AI that we are using internally, which is like a whatever corporate version UI slapped on top of the AWS Bedrock version of Claude, is also recorded. And every month they send us like how many tokens, what people are doing with it, blah blah blah. So yeah, clearly this is the way.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. So the so at work. So yeah, I know you got the main gig and then a bunch of side gigs. But do they give you Do they give you a Claude that you are allowed to use at work that they keep the telemetry of?
Yeah, so they've been using AWS Bedrock, and the way they've done it is they put anyway, they've done it weirdly as always, but they wanted to control every API call that goes out of Claude. So they have AWS Bedrock, but what they've put is a proxy in front of it. So it goes through an internal thing, and that thing then has a system prompt of what it allows you to do and whatever, and the way it behaves, and that thing records telemetry going in and out.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's totally yeah, it's always interesting to hear like how enterprises approaching these problems. Like the solution feels like hacky to me, but I also don't really know how you would, like, if I were thinking from like I have an AWS deployment, I'm already paying for Bedrock, like my people need AI. I don't really like that seems like a reasonable way to approach it. But yeah, but for me as a developer, I'm gonna want something that can sort of like reduce my mental overhead effectively. So I don't want to have to do a ton of access management, but I do also do. I get why enterprise might be particularly interested in that as well.
You have to, right? If you
Yeah.
but you have to, like, if you ever want to penetrate enterprise, you have to think about these things. So that's, I mean, more on this later, but you kind of have how these guys want, and also mind you that the people that are actually signing the check are not the tech guys, right?
Right.
So you still have a way to speak enterprise to the person that is, doing this. So the reason why they did this is because they have this global AI governance bullshit where it's a guy that is sitting on top that is basically, if anything goes wrong, that guy gets sacked,
Yeah,
basically.
I think
And the only way
I was gonna say, yeah, I think for Agent Builder they have incorporated some of that as well, which I thought I like in terms of the features of Agent Builder. All of them exist, but I do commend Sam on his product sense because I think they're packaged nicely and like in a good form factor that's gonna let you be able to be technical with them and then also have it be like available for non-technicals too. So I'll give him a pat on the back on that. But
and also think about the fact that a lot of people, like, we do live in a bubble. Like, when I say that, I don't mean the market bubble, I do mean you guys and me, and kind of, hanging on Discord. But actually, if you talk to normies like I do, and you have normies friends, and they don't know shit about AI, they think ChatGPT.
well, yeah, I think that's I think that's essentially that's gonna be the job of people who are trying to build good AI products. Is I think you kind of need to. There's phrasing you can use in the bubble, and then there's phrasing you can use outside of the bubble, and there's a lot of education pieces in between. But speaking of, I'm curious in terms of tipmd or anything that you've been using lately. Have you added anything to like your tool chain? How are you doing with like your agentic stack? Are you multi-agenting? What are you doing?
Sorry, I missed this. I think my AirPods just died. What did you say?
I was saying
I said,
yeah. What's your stack like? What's your tool chain?
Okay,
In terms
so
of AI
let's.
stuff,
I mean, yeah. I'm currently in the, like, I'm hovering in between Cloud Code overridden by Kimi K2
Mm-hmm.
and 4.5 Sonnet inside Cursor.
Interesting. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I've mostly moved to like a terminal primary, I guess. I still do how I set mine up, or yeah, I guess this is a good segue into another thing that I wanted to cover. And I'm gonna drop this link in the chat and probably in video descriptions and stuff. But my current CLI agent, my primary one is Factory right now because they have a very good promo, which is from a one Ray Fernando. Go check him out on his YouTube and Twitter and all that. I think he's just at Ray Fernando all over the place. But as you can see, 2 months or 40 million tokens is a good.
man, he looks like Sam from here.
Right. But yeah, so I've been driving Factory lately, because I got a bunch of tokens to chew through, and I'm mostly delegating to Factory most of the work, and then I have 2 panes on the side for Factory droids, and then I have a main pane for NeoVim that I'm mostly using in like a supervisory fashion. And that's working okay.
Are you using Nshad as well inside NeoVim to kind of view what's going on?
I have a bunch of different AI plugins. I'm currently my old one was Code Companion and Avante. I still do make use of those. I have OpenCode, and then I also have claudecode.nvim and opencode.nvim, and then I think there's a codex.nvim in there too, but I honestly usually just make more panes in the terminal rather than like using neovim built-ins. For better or worse, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm still kind of like dialing it in a little bit. But yeah, factory so far has been like it's been okay. I'm kind of leaning towards the I think there's kind of like I at least the way that I'm seeing products being built right now in terms of code generation agents, there's kind of you either have the cursor approach of like, hey, here's all the models, you pick which one you want like for your task, or you kind of have the AMP approach where it's like, we are going to build this harness and we're going to structure the harness such that it's built for particular models and tries to play to their strengths. And I'm not sure. Factory is the former, and I like that. It's nice to be able to. They have a fine-tuned GLM 4.6 in there, which we played with last week. That seems to be pretty.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, pretty good at tool calling, and then it's like at a quarter cost of tokens. So like the cursor auto router is like horrible, and I never use it because I've like they just have not figured that part out. But with this one, and then sort of with open code, I want to try. I need there's so many things to try, but yeah, I do like having access to the open source model and then being able to like be in a conversation, be like plan with Opus, flip over to Sonnet to like check, and then flip over to GLM to actually go implement, and then have Sonnet double check something like that. But it's nice to be able to kind of like rotate those out based on what my needs are. But I don't think that that's a feature that's going to be like super important for everybody. Although I always felt at least the AMP approach was it's a little harder for me to stomach because I really want more control over my costs. So it feels better if I can like say like, oh, okay, I want to pay the 6x tokens because I really need Opus here versus I like this is planned out enough where I can cheap out now and I'm good to go. And I like being able to dial that sort of switch in personally.
Okay, interesting. So I just downloaded Factory. First of all, their onboarding is sick. I like the design. What jumps at me is they have a cloud delegation that you can do like Cursor.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, if you want to come back to my stack, I kind of similar to what you just said. I like also the control. I don't like AMP because it forces you to use one model in a certain way. They've made it in a certain way, and I get why they did this. The same way Replit does it as well. Is they kind of want to control the output because they are more output driven. If you are in the game of Replit is kind of targeted at normies trying to play with vibe coding, right? So they need to kind of have that harness. Whereas if you're targeting developers, developers like think like you and I, and they kind of want to have a bit more control. What I do is I do inside Cursor, I fire the terminal, I use Cloud Code with Kimi, and then I have Cursor on the side with 4.5 if I ever want to ask questions about like what it's doing or use it as a reviewer, in addition to like all the sub-agent reviewers that I have and blah, 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 right? So that's usually what I like. And why I still am paying for Cursor is because I think a lot of people are underrating background agents in general, like as a concept. And I think because most people are not, like you said, you touched on, I have a main gig and all that I do with these things is on my side time. So what that means is I have to use background agents in order to get work done and in order to kind of continue advancing. So my workflow is usually before I get into work, I use Taskmaster to kind of keep track of everything that's happening in the project. And then before I start, I would like fire up a task done by Taskmaster because it has a CLI, so it works in background agent. and I will give it to the background agent to do, and then I will start my day. And then when I get home at night, I have already a PR waiting for me to review. So it's kind of a good way for me to kind of still keep momentum going and not just rely on, waiting on the agent to do stuff. So as long as your task is pretty well done, your PR is okay, right? Like it's only as good as what you plan and how you break down your tasks. That's kind of how I usually work.
Yeah, I think I haven't of this yet. Like I think that I am. There's a subagents is a really interesting topic to me. I think because it is like what exactly are those and it's like how should I like frame them in my head kind of thing. I think I saw
You mean in Cloud Code subagents?
uh yes, but I mean less on a technical level and more on a
Okay.
philosophical one, where it's like, at least to me, like one way that I like to think about them is like disposable context windows. So like if currently what I'm
Yes.
doing is building a main thread context window, and I have something that I don't want in that window, that's usually when I reach for a sub agent. Um, an agent is a multi-step workflow. Subagents would be orchestrated.
Yeah, I agree with this. That's what I was going to say. I think your main thread window should be your architect, and think about it like you're a puppeteer, and those things are your puppets. They are there to do stuff. That's kind of, if you architect it this way, then your main agent context window doesn't get polluted and keeps on track with the objective. Whereas, and that's kind of how I've seen a lot of people do it. Like parallel runs on whatever they can with like coder agents, and then the main thread is for review. Or you have the main thread is basically a coder, and then you have sub agents that are reviewers, and then that it can be called for different stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm exactly the same on that, except I have usually 3 or 4 copies of each repo on my machine. Two for some like very, very large things. And then I have several kind of, as you're calling them, architect agents. And I use this week I started using, I used to have a whole stack for this, but now I just use the plan mode because Sonnet 4.5 improved so much that plan mode on Claude seems to actually do this quite well. I have noticed it's really important if you specify that it should use subagents and what it should be using the subagents for within the prompt.
Yes.
That helps a ton. But it's have you tried it? Have you tried Sonnet 4.5 with plan mode? It's outrageous.
Yes. Yeah, I've tried it. It's pretty good. And it's kind of here. Let me link something. This is the guy that is in the latent space yes, and he built this Claude kit, which is really good. I highly encourage people to use it. And this thing has really good like orchestration. The thing with subagents is when you pair them with hooks, then it becomes the power of really using subagents. I agree with the plan mode, but the plan mode, in my opinion, is I kind of like that the plan mode, but I always end up either asking it to record it in Taskmaster or doing the Taskmaster flow, because it depends on how you see features. If you see features as just a 1 day thing that you just need to add something, then yes, I agree with you. It's just a yes, big feature, you plan it, you get it done, and then you're done by the end of the day. But if you're like me, you're starting a project and you know it's going to span over like a few days to get all the features dialed in and everything, then I prefer to use Taskmaster, just even for me, right? So I don't lose context of what I was actually doing, like for my own, meaty context window.
Yeah, the well,
I'm reading the.
yeah,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, well, yeah. So it's an interesting. So like one way, you can go for main thread orchestrator, and then it's like, okay, so I can have multiple orchestrators that maybe are gonna work in multiple repos. So am I able to context switch where I can keep all of these guys in line, or then do I have an orchestrator on top of the orchestrators, and then how do I manage subagents with that? And then am I using Git? Am I just manually cloning the repo? Am I doing Git work trees? And or am I doing where am I doing this? Am I doing it in a VM or a Docker container or what? And then like for each of those decision points, I think it's valid to be looking at the best way to apply those. I think it is. Two people can have different roles for, let's say, the Docker container or the subagent or whatever, and I think that there are multiple right answers to what that object should be, what role that object should play in your sort of like orchestration system. But end of the day, end of the day, it's context management, and then like there are some capabilities related stuff that I know I bumped into with Droid. One of the things that I have been, or I saw a post. I actually should see if I can find it. About having Claude run the dev server in a background process, and then I think it might need a script to periodically like ping it and check it, because I don't think it can see it when it's in the background process. But the other CLI agents that I've used have it. They'll either like one-shot it into the background and never be able to get it back, or or they just won't be able to do it at all because they only have the single thread. Which is something I bumped into with Factory. That was, at least the UX for it was better in Claude Code. So not quite all the way there, but yeah.
Here, I'm linking a video of something that is quite like, if you want to put it on screen or whatever. But this guy did an interesting. I like this YouTube channel, by the way. But this guy did an interesting experiment where there is a research paper that actually shows you. So that actually shows you that parallel runs of agents tackling the same problem is actually getting you an overall better solution than just doing it in one agent, right? And the way he's doing it, so he does this demo. You guys can watch the video, but he's using sub agents as parallel run and parallel thinking. And what is this parallel thinker, right? He couldn't do the first and second, which is like best methods from the paper. But the third option is what he's doing, and he's doing it with subagent. So he's using subagent as like 8 different implementation or 6 different implementation of the same code, and using the main thread as the judge. And all of them come back with like solutions, and then he decides, okay, this is the best way actually to tackle the problem, or is the sum of 2 agents, or things like that, which I thought was a pretty interesting approach.
Yeah, no, I that's something. It's funny now that my workflow is like with the Beam. Oh, did you actually end up building that server, Baco? I want to deploy that somewhere. I have like specs. I have it spec'd out, but I haven't tried it. But
Sorry, can I ask you a question about the paper?
Yeah.
So, Rome, you mentioned that in this case, the effective IQ of the agents is higher when there's multiple agents working in parallel.
That's what the paper is saying. Yeah.
They're each non-deterministic, and they're just kind of producing like slightly random outputs within a confined space, and so they end up checking all the different possible answers. Do you think the same could be achieved by a thorough research period? I do a lot of the research in parallel, and then I tend to do the implementation. The implementation tends to be one-shotted, actually. So I just do all the independent items in parallel. Do you think that's the same thing that he's talking about, or is it like actually just letting all the agents try to solve the problems simultaneously? Because that sounds very disorganized.
No, so what he's doing is, if you increase, so if you look at like the paper, it's just as you increase the token budget in terms of thinking, it will actually end up producing a better solution. But what he is doing is which one is the version of he's demoing in the video, but you can have a look, is the majority. So the way he's doing it is you launch several agents at the same time, and then it's majority voting. So it's like P independent path, and then you return the majority answer. So if you have like out of 8 agents, if you have like 5 agents that are kind of leaning in the same direction or approach, then overall it's kind of the right way to tackle one problem. So I agree with you, it kind of sounds disorganized when you think about it, because it depends on like how narrow or wide the problem scope that you present to the main agent is, right? If your problem scope is, hey, I need this feature that does text, right? Like in this case, in his video, it was very interesting because he had a gnarly bug that he couldn't fix with in one of his apps that he couldn't fix with like either Opus or Claude 4 at the time. And he was like, okay, I need kind of, people with fresh eyes bringing this. And it was very interesting because at the end, one of the majority came up with the solution that was interesting and then managed to solve the thing. So that was interesting.
Oh, so they're actually communicating with each other throughout this process as well.
They're not, no, like they are independent, but they come back to the main guy, and the main thread then does the majority voting kind of thing, like where it does the judge, it does the judging, and he was like, okay, like let's say, I don't know, we've been having this discussion, right? You like we are four speakers and six in the audience, so let's do a vote. Who is using Cloud Code? Raise hands. Who is using this? And then what do you guys think we should go with this project? In the end, we decide to go with what the majority thinks is the best way to tackle the problem. That's exactly the same thing you're doing here with agents. All of us have independent thinking, and then we come back with one answer, and then we just vote based on this answer.
Yeah, if you see it on my screen, this is a pattern that I have. I had it or I currently have it wired into Code Companion for ensembling, and primarily my use case for it was if agents are starting to get off the rails, or if there's something that's very difficult. Yeah, I might put forth that this is like a. If you were to say that there are some established design patterns within multi-agent workflows, which is like kind of a stretch just saying that, but if I would certainly include ensemble in one of them, because I think there's a lot you can do with a pattern like that. It's very powerful. It can be very expensive, but it also can be a good way to because if you have like a pretty cheap or a series of pretty cheap but also pretty effective models, especially considering how good open source is getting these days, I could certainly see like a GLM, Kimi, Quen ensemble,
or even DeepSeek.
Yeah. GLM, Kimi, Quen, DeepSeek ensemble tries to tackle this problem. Like Sonnet gets it all and then actually goes for the implementation, and then Opus reviews the whole thing and then sort of like creates the debrief that will inform kind of how the ensemble will be structured in the next
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I agree 100%. I think open source is getting so good at some point that you will end up with these kind of workflows. And to be honest, like I switched to Kimi K2 like a month and a half ago, and honestly, it's blown me away. Like in a lot of instances, Cloud 4 was out at the time, not yet the 4.5. In a lot of instances, there was some things that it took like Cloud 4, I don't know, many tries and it failed. In one of my attempts at that enterprise legacy product, legacy code based product that I told you about, and Kimi ran for probably 30 minutes inside Cloud Code and managed to fix it. And it cost me overall like less than $5 in API cost.
Yeah, well, I think I wonder if that'll just work. Oh no, sometimes they used to have a JSON import for this. Yeah, I think one of the things that so currently after the most recent Anthropic please stop using this Mac subscription we sold you because we literally can't afford to sell people more of these help sort of remedy. After the most recent one, I was like, okay, let's drop it down to the $20 tier and then go try out ChatGPT Pro. That was when Codex was really like kind of getting making waves, I guess. And then I ran into the factory thing. So currently I'm primarily factory until I burn these 40 million tokens. But the way that I am setting up factory is with subagents. And the subagents only have permission to run one tool, and that tool is generally going to be something like Cursor Agent P or like Quen P. Such that like the subagents are one shots for cheaper models, so I can sort of combine all of my plans into one, orchestrated, whatever has the most tokens left in it, we're going to use that. Um, oh yeah, Brad, because there's tons of ways to like implement those patterns. I'm curious as to when you say you implemented those patterns, or did you just like is that like a dev tool for you? Did you use a platform? How are you or are you just like doing MD file orchestration with Claude Code? Because I that's where I was headed the other day. Actually, I was like, man, you know what? I can just just give me state.md and I'll be in good shape. Then make this happen.
Depend. I think if you zoom out, all these talks that we're having about, and that's a very dev way of thinking. Not that I'm criticizing anyone. I'm doing the same. What I'm thinking is like at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, right? At the end of the day, what matters is the output you get of it. And are we all here building products, or are we just, trying to be at the frontier of how to work? Because you can debate, like Next.js versus whatever, Vercel versus whatever. But at the end of the day, if you get users and your product is being used and the feature is actually built, the way you do it and arrive, we all kind of have different paths and we kind of arrive at the goal that we have, right? I think it's cool to experiment with all of this, but also it's very easy to get lost in, procrastinating in thinking about, oh, this is the new thing, I have to try it out, and then spending 20, I don't know, like 2 days trying out like different sub-agent workflows instead of actually doing work.
Oh yeah. As a NeoVim user, I'm extremely prone to this, be it new agent workflow or a cool plugin that I need to try. Yeah, I can definitely get lost in config land, and which I then like. There are lots. So I guess for context, I don't have a traditional engineering background. I'm only like 3 or 4 years in now ish, something like that. And I noticed that I am much more inclined to pick up and experiment with new tools than people who are more experienced engineers than I am, which I presume is like, I know how this tool works, and so what I'm going to do is minimize complexity, which I think is a thing that you should do. But I consider myself a little bit fortunate to have started late, because I think right now is a very good time to be able for it to feel natural for me to go play with the new toy and see if that's the one I want to drive this week. And I think it kind of helps sort of do a subconscious distillation, if you will, where it's like, okay, like I kind of know, I got a flow eyes, I got an N8N, I got a bolts, I got a this thing, like you can see commonalities between all of them, so it sort of helps you to get a little bit of market perspective. But it does involve learning lots of new tools all the time, which is like pretty annoying. And then like sometimes they break, and that's even more annoying, and then you're screwed.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it depends on your individual context. I think in your case with Tribe, it kind of makes sense that you are aware of everything that's out there, right? Because you might be talking to 20 different guys that have 20 different workflows, right? And that's why I also kind of keep a tab on all of this, because at the end of the day, if you have something that's going to address a problem with developers, you kind of want to find solutions that work with everyone, right? Not someone that you come to and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, your thing is not compatible with Cloud Code, for example, right? Or is not compatible with my thing because I'm using factory. So I guess it has merit to do that, but also it depends again on the context. I think a lot of people that I see, especially on Twitter, is like, no, this my thing, in my way of doing it is the best. Oh, this is the 10x workflow that you need. Like honestly, that it doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're not shipping. If you're not shipping.
Right.
Lately, it's like watching a Monty Python skit about like thousands of people in the wheel or something like that at the same time. It's like, how many different light bulbs do we need here? Like all of these things kind of do the same thing. But the problem is, I think the space is expanding so rapidly that there's a lot of area for improvement on the current solution, right? And so people are expanding in all these different directions, and so there might be 100 different orchestrators competing like 5 years from now. Probably there will be like but there will probably be a lot of different tools that always keep emerging because of this. I think the real question is like, what is the switching cost for humans as all these tools get rapidly generated? Because once we have like recursive self-improvement on most of these systems, which is kind of the point of these systems, is to recursively expand and build up their use case, like kind of conform to user fit. That seems to be where we're headed. And if that actually happens, it sounds like it's going to be absolutely exhausting to just keep tabs on any of it, actually, or to even like, perform in that environment.
Or I want to say something completely different, is as models expand and context windows become larger and actually models get better, do you actually need all these things?
So
maybe. There's still tool usage, and context around tool usage is like, I don't know. I imagine this like massive context window that you're describing, and it seems very hard to rationalize with physics because of latency issues and things like that.
Yeah, of course. But think about it, like we might be in a way going in a direction where you have a massive context window to play with, and then all you are doing is kind of creating the harness, and then the best guy that has, that's why I think that all the guys that are doing harnesses on top of agents are doing it the right way in a certain way, because if tomorrow you have a new model with like infinite capabilities in terms of context window, then harnessing it the right way in order to maximize the use of that context window is becoming the way to do it. And the other space where I think you are pretty safe to be in is kind of the same thing around context engineering. Because at the end of the day, we are all focusing on our own individuality, right? But because I work in an enterprise and I see how devs work, you also have to think about how do you actually get to share context between different agents, not different agents within your control, but different agents controlled by different people. And this is where it kind of becomes suboptimal to have, and that's where I came up with this idea that I had, but it becomes suboptimal to kind of have 10 agents reviewing the same code base 10 times using all of their context windows to basically just discover the code base, for example, right? Whereas if you had, and you touched on the corpus of docs, yikes, but it's literally the same thing. If you have corpuses of docs, or you have agents that basically are there to tell you, this is how we code in this bank, or this is how we code in this startup, then you kind of have shared context across agents. And I particularly like all the MCPs that come out where it's basically context engineering by providing guidelines and docs and the best way of kind of doing one thing. Because then you can use whatever the fuck you want in terms of agent. Then you kind of leave dev to choose their own poison, but you kind of make sure that as they're doing it, they're all at least following basic principle. That is how I am seeing it personally.
Yeah, I definitely see that evolution happening as well. One of the things that's kind of cool about that worldview is that it means we eventually trend towards this thing, which I think of as like kind of micro telemetry, or macro telemetry, one of the two. But you have this like telepathic relationship that's continuous between people, that's kind of frictionless, where the agents are really doing all the work, but there's people giving feedback at different points of the system. And you're kind of just triangulating towards a goal with a large group of people. Because as you say, like the HR agents are already coming out that like teach people how to exist within a group, and where like, where the water cooler is in the office, all that stuff. You see like Scribe and Motion and a bunch of these guys that are doing that really well. And then like the next layer of that becomes like, how do agents behave in this environment, and what are the acceptable rules? And then it seems like probably we're eventually just going to let them loose and then keep an eye on them, kind of like sort of like a kindergarten or something.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's where a guy like Taskmaster and what he's doing with Hamster, I'm pretty bullish on, because if you come to think about it, it's what you're saying is exactly the way this is going. Okay, like again, coming back to normies, coming back to like trying to step out of our own bubble here in Discord with like 6 other people that are looking at the same thing. If you think about how guys are adopting this, and especially guys that have, think about your Jeff in accounting that has like 20 years of experience, and you show him this, he's probably going to resist, right? So how do you get him to actually be a part of the story and be like contribute and like use these things in a certain way. And it comes back to what you're saying, like atomic way of having agents or shared context or whatever. Like I don't know how you describe it, but I liked it, like the shared conscious across different people. I think this is how we have to think about it. How do we get different peoples with different levels of skill set going in? And I think a lot of these guys are focusing on devs because that's the easy way. You come out with coding agents, but not a lot of people are kind of focusing on just basic enterprise of how you onboard PMs, how you onboard like basically business users, right? Like all the guys that are beside me are not coders. I myself, I'm on the business side. I'm not a coder by like in my current job. I just code as part of my job because I choose to, but that's not what I'm doing. Most of the guys sitting next to me, they basically like ask features to IT. So how do you onboard a guy like this in an intelligent way so that it actually 10x the workflows of the dev? Because yes, the dev can ship faster, but he can only ship faster as the features keep coming in.
Yeah, I think it's, you kind of always have to figure out where you're drawing the line, because like at least what's sort of been popping up for me a lot lately has been like, end of the day, like if an agent is useful for a software engineer, it's useful for everyone. It's just that the form factor is suited to be a software engineer. Because like if it doesn't have the code that it would need in order to be useful to you, it can just write it. So yeah, so it ends up coming down to things like user interface or marketing or just
Yeah, I don't actually trust this because in an enterprise context, there is no way a CEO or whatever is going to allow software to build itself like when it's business problems that have like real impact on real clients. Like no way in hell this is happening. And also it's not happening with legacy code bases. So yeah, of course you can think about like I kind of laugh every time I hear, oh, we're going into a world where you can basically speak your software. Yeah, of course, probably me at home, right? But in a context where you have 10,000 employees in a bank, no, that's like no one is going to let, like IT is not going to let software like speak itself. And 10,000 guys like basically have 10 different versions of the same thing.
Yeah,
But I think so. Not instantly, but with a delay factor. So I think you can think of this like user interface engineering at Facebook or something like that, right? They're watching user data and heat maps and things like that, and then they're moving features around and changing to conform to the user. I think the question isn't like instant software development, but rather like can we rearrange the current existing modules so that they're slightly more efficient on a continuous and dynamic basis, where it's always growing and evolving, but isn't software stops being static, I think, mainly. Currently, it requires work and like a significant amount of human effort for software to change course, but I think in the future it'll dramatically that amount of effort will dramatically shrink.
I agree, but it's as long as it will go as far as people are aware of these things. And trust me when I say this, my head of tech here is not aware, like it doesn't use Cloud Code, is not like nowhere near the levels we are. Like, and he is basically responsible for this. So unless you get people aware of how these things work and trust them and actually experience with them, change isn't gonna come. So that's why I'm saying yes, tech can go so far that you also need user adoption to actually follow suit, right? How long did it take like mobile and internet on mobile like took off, right? But it's only when like the App Store came out and all these different use cases came out and people started seeing, oh, what you can do with the phone, that adoption kind of also came. And similarly, you kind of have to wait a little bit for all these things to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest iPhone app that I remember, like the first big one, was actually I think it was even the iPod Touch. It could turn into a glass of beer, and you could hold it up to your mouth and drink it, and move out. And I think there were several things like that that were complete trash, but they made people excited. I also remember the flashlight app. very early
Yes.
on. I think kind of what's happening with developers right now, though, is just the early adopter market. I was at an event on Monday in SF, and it was one of the head guys from Docker, one of the head guys from Vercel, and this guy from another kind of serious early orchestrator product. And all three of them basically said the same thing, which is, you're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody that knows how to use AI better than you.
Yeah, that's a famous quote.
Like, it just depends who's at the forefront of that and where the most job insecurity is. But there's going to be a very dramatic shift, I think, towards using these tools for whatever reason, right? It's just going to be a major budget change.
Yeah. But also, if you come to think about it, I agree with this statement as long as you're operating in an environment that allows you to do it. Like, to give you a concrete example, Cloud Code is under POC here. That means we are less than 30 users worldwide in my job that have access to Cloud Code, right? Because they're like, oh, we need to see, we need to assess, we need to look at the ROI, we need to look at all 20 things. And so the people are footing the bill on this POC with a limited scope and a certain budget, but it all comes back to, are you even allowed to do these things? So yeah, of course, you're gonna tell me, yeah, if you work in a startup and it's basically you can use fuck all, whatever you want, yeah, of course. But if you come in all these traditional things, people that work at Procter and Gamble, people that work at whatever these big enterprises companies, yeah, I don't know, it also needs to be allowed to do certain stuff, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, the permissions control stuff is going to be pretty tight. But I think that happened with cloud as well. Cloud took about 8 years to go from idea
Yes,
to
that's exactly yeah, that's the right analogy. Yeah, I agree with this.
Yikes, what are you up to on the screen here? I'm watching you drag these boxes together. Can you tell us more about this?
So I'm messing around with the OpenAI agent builder. I could have swore I watched something earlier where I can just tell it to generate one for me and it will. But I couldn't find that, so Jay dropped me a PDF of some LLM architecture patterns, and then I was gonna my plan was to get this, just drop it into the agent and say make me some of these, but unfortunately it seems like the way to get that to it is through a vector.
There is a repo for this.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a billion repos for this, but the
but recently the guy from LightGraph has done something like this.
LightGraph? Let's see.
Yeah.
LITE?
LightRag, sorry, LightRag. LIGHT. No, LIGHT.
Got it.
Light. Let there be light.
Indeed.
Yeah, I just linked it. So LightRag, and I'll link LightRag as well. LightRag is really good. LightRag was the first graph rag that took off. I don't know how long ago it was.
Okay, yeah, good. This actually saves me some time. I am also making basically one of these when I am using these papers to do it. Funny.
Yeah, and they are in my neighborhood, as you can see. It's basically Hong Kong Union.
Oh yeah, very cool.
Spoke to the guy behind. He's the PhD student.
Indeed. Well, we are just about to top of hour. So I guess I will say, do we have any final thoughts, conclusions, things that we haven't said yet that we would like to say on the thing? You got anything, Rome? Or you think you got it all out?
Yeah, no, I think it was very interesting. I like the format, even though it was 7 a.m. my time. But it's very interesting. A lot of nuggets here. Yeah, we went, we yapped for an hour. Didn't get you wanted me to share some stuff, and it's fine. We can do it another time. I think it's interesting to kind of go back and forth with you guys. It's interesting that we are, as you said, we are evolving at the frontier of what is today capable, and I think it's interesting to keep the dialogue going. That's it. That's kind of what I had.
There's a lot of search space to cover basically, and it's growing.
Thanks, Kev.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, really
you
appreciate
have
it.
mentioned tipmd. Yeah.
Yes. Go check out Rome's thing. It is on the screen at the moment. It should be on. Yes, it's on all of the screens. tipmd. You probably don't need yet another protocol. You can just stick something in a markdown file, and then now people can pay you all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just basically integrated, we recently integrated X402 on Solana on the MCP server. So if you guys want to try it out, and also if you guys are on Farcaster, there is a mini app. For some figures, there are 5,000 devs that have joined. I processed around 850 tips so far, and yeah, you can kind of have a look. It's operating on 5 blockchains. Yeah, you can here like check it out again. Like it, don't like it, use it, don't use it. Honestly, whatever you decide, just let me know. I would be happy. I'm still iterating. I'm still looking for feedback. I'm building this solo. So yeah, let me know.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Yeah, if you're seeing this, go check that out and put it on your profile, and then get some tips. Al, any final thoughts from you on this for this one?
No, great discussion. I really appreciate you being here, Rome, especially given that it's so early for you. Is there anything from the chat that we haven't actually talked about? There's a whole bunch of links that people have been dropping in here. Do we want to touch on any of those before we go? It looks like a lot of people have been